Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fabric Tech Talk Fridays. I'm your host, Patrick LeBlanc, and today I have with me Mr. Aaron Merrill. Aaron, before we get started, why don't you tell the people who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hey everyone. So I'm Aaron Merrill. I'm a principal product manager on the OneLake team, and I'm responsible for working on the OneLake Security feature.
Wow, OneLake Security. That's a feature that I have to say that anyone that uses Fabric has been waiting on, and we're excited to finally announce. And thank you for coming on Fabric
Yeah,
Tech
thank you
Talk
for having me.
Fridays to talk about the public preview of OneLake Security. Why don't you tell us about what it is and how it works?
Yeah, awesome. So the whole idea behind Fabric is that you have a whole bunch of different workloads and experiences that read data over a single data format in Delta Lake. And so we call this our one copy story. And to go with our one copy story, we want to have a one definition of security, and that's where OneLake Security comes in. So as you can kind of see here on this slide that I have, OneLake Security lets you secure your data once natively in OneLake and have that security enforced everywhere in Fabric when users go to access that data. So if you want to have users that can query data through SQL or Spark or Power BI, all using a single definition of security, you can do that through OneLake Security. Where it gets even better is that not only do we just have kind of object level security that you think of when we're talking about data lakes, we also have table, row, and column level security to give you that fine grained access control.
Wow. Wow. So I'm not just securing row. I can go at different levels. I can combine them. I can have a mix of them together. But for me, I think the difference is, at least when I started using Power BI and we would connect to a data source and I create my security in Power BI, but people are like, why can't I replicate the security from the source to Power BI? Now I don't have to worry about any of this. So if I'm connecting to SQL, if I'm connecting to a warehouse, if I'm connecting to a lakehouse, if I'm connecting to Spark, right? The security is in one place and it's managed regardless of what tool I use to access it.
Exactly. And you still have all of the granular security capabilities that you would expect from an engine like Warehouse or SQL, but now natively in one.
Nice. And I just implement it in one place. I forget it. It's done. And then, all my data is protected.
Exactly. And we made it really easy to use as well. So everything is role based. You simply create security roles like grant people access to the data you want them to have. And then when they go to access that data, that security will be enforced.
Awesome. All right, Aaron. So I'm sure everybody, we're going to put some links to the documentation and things like that out there, but I'm sure everybody wants to see how this works. So enough of all this talking, Aaron. Let's head over to your laptop and let's check out the demo.
Perfect. So over here in Fabric, and this is my admin user. So I've created a workspace here that has some data. So we'll go take a look at our Northwind workspace. And here I've created a bunch of lake houses. I have some reports. I have some notebooks, etc. So we'll click on my Northwind test lake house. And you can see I have a bunch of tables that I've already loaded here. These are all available within one. I can click here on Manage OneLake Security, and you'll see this is where I manage all of my different roles to either. You can see this is where I can manage all of my different roles to control my access to data within OneLake. So you can see I already have a role here, but I also have the option to create new roles or search for roles that already exist. So let's go ahead and click on this one role here. I've called it RLS test, and you can see that it's granting access to a couple of the different tables in this lakehouse. Not all of the tables, just the customers table and the orders table. You'll also notice that I have a couple little icons here telling me that there are row and column level security constraints on the customers table. So let's take a look at those constraints. You can see here for row level security, I have some basic SQL syntax that is telling me I'm only going to show users rows for the country USA. I can also go over to the column level security tab, and you'll see here I've removed some of the columns so they don't have access to some of the tables. So we go in here and see, all right, we've removed access to contact name and address. When users go to access this table, they will not be able to see those two columns. If I want to create additional roles, I can go ahead and do that. You just give your role a name, then you choose the data that you want to grant access to, and you can grant access at all kinds of different levels. You could grant access to everything in a schema, just choose selected tables. If you have unstructured data, you can grant access to that as well. So it's really easy to set up and use, and then you can get started securing your data. One last thing, if we go to the RLS test role, you can see here I've added my test user. So they're in this role. That means they'll have that row and column level security applied.
And so what the interesting thing, right? Setting up column and row level security, it's pretty simple. So when I go to set up my column level security, I just choose the columns and select remove, and they're secured. But the thing that got me really excited that I saw was the row level security. I'm a Power BI person, and I would traditionally or normally write DAX. And DAX is simple. It's simple to write, but a lot of people find it opportunistic, right? I'm not going to call it challenging. It's opportunistic. But now it's just SQL. And SQL, if we were in a room of 100 tech professionals, I said, how many people know how to write SQL? Lots of hands would go up, right? A large majority of the hands would probably go up. So almost anyone, that is familiar with the T-SQL language can set up row level security. And because the column level security is just a few clicks, that's just easy, right?
Exactly. And if you
Yeah.
need help writing some T-SQL, Copilot's pretty good at writing SQL.
Yeah, Copilot is pretty good at writing some SQL. So once all this set up, so I have my Lakehouse, I've set up my column and row level security, and so now the different engines in Fabric that I access, my data through, it's all secure.
Correct. Exactly. So there's two things as the admin that I need to do. The security is all set up, but to get the best experience, we want to make sure that everything's nice and seamless. So the first thing that I'll do is I'll go to my SQL Analytics endpoint. And this is what lets users run SQL queries over this data that I have in my Lakehouse. We've added this new security tab at the top. And what you'll want to do is go here and make sure that this is user's identity. What this means is that when they query, it'll use OneLake Security to secure the data exactly the same way. The default still keeps your data secure through OneLake Security, but uses the old owner's identity that we used back when Fabric originally was launched. So you'll want to make sure that we have the user's identity option checked here on your SQL Analytics.
So when I access the data through the SQL Analyst endpoint as a consumer of the data, not an administrator, right? Just a consumer, not an author of the Lakehouse, just a consumer, it's automatically going to default to that user identity, and all the queries will be run
Correct.
under my context as
Exactly.
me. Yeah.
Whatever
Okay.
test
All
user
right.
is allowed to see, that's what they'll see. And we'll go ahead and check that out here in just a few seconds. The other thing is Power BI has a new mode now called Direct Lake on OneLake. And when you use Direct Lake on OneLake, this will let your Power BI semantic model immediately just pull all of the OneLake security roles and enforce them instantaneously. So you can go ahead and check whether your semantic model is in Direct Lake on OneLake mode through our Patrick's favorite new Tyndall view. So you just go over here,
That's right.
grab your semantic model, pull it into Tyndall view, and if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, there's just going to be a little snippet of code here, and it just says Azure Storage.data Lake. That means that your Power BI semantic model is using that direct lake on OneLake mode, and all of that OneLake security goodness will immediately start up. So let's switch over to the end user and see what they see when they go to Fabric. All right, so I'm here as the test user in Fabric, and you can see they have access to the workspace. So they're a viewer here. That means they can have access to some of the different items here. Again, some of the same lake houses and reports, etc. Now, the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and go to the Northwind test lakehouse. And you'll see this is the exact same lakehouse that the admin set up the permissions for. And so as you would expect, I can only see the customers and the orders table. If I expand customers here, you'll notice that the sensitive columns, address, I think it was contact name, are now removed from the list. So they don't have access to those columns. We can then go to the SQL Analytics endpoint and start running some queries here to confirm our data. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and just query the orders table. User had full access to the orders table, so we'll expect that they can see all of the data for now. So you can see tables, orders. We'll go ahead and select top 100. And there you go. We see all the data just like we would expect because the user has full access to the orders table. Now we'll do the same thing for the customers table. And again, for this one, they have column level security applied. So we immediately get an error message telling us, hey, you don't have access to some of the columns that are needed to run this select query. So we'll go ahead and clean this up. I don't have access to address column. And then, is that the only one? Yes.
Contact name. I think it was contact name.
Oh, yep, there you go. So we'll fix that and we'll rerun the query. And there you go. Now it runs. The columns that we don't have access to are gone. And that RLS is applied and we only see the USA rows.
Wow. Wow. So seamless. It's so seamless. Now, one of the things that you said was that person in the workspace is only a viewer. Is that a requirement when I set this up? And so, there's different roles that I can have in a works admin, member, contributor, viewer. Is it critical? Is that a requirement that if I want role level security to kick in, do the people that's consuming the data, what level, what role should they be?
Yeah, so they'll need to be a viewer or just have read access on the item in the workspace where that role is set. So in
Got
this
it.
case, we were
Got
talking
it.
about the Northwind workspace. So test user needs to be a viewer in the Northwind workspace. We'll talk in just a few minutes about what happens if they're an admin in another workspace and kind of show you how that works. So one last thing here I want to show with SQL endpoint, we can actually do some queries, maybe a join, do something a little more complex. We always like to show the demo with one table. But in this case, I want to show a quick query with both. So now we want to figure out what our total freight is for a particular customer ID. So we're going to go ahead and join between our customers table and our orders table. But you'll notice the RLS applies. So these are only our US customers here. You see only the same 13 customers that we saw when we queried the customer ID table. And you have the nice sum of all the freight. Now we're joining between two different tables that have OneLake Security on it to make sure that users are only allowed to see certain data.
So there's security at so many different levels, even when I do this programmatically through T-SQL. I can't wait to go out and try this myself. I'm excited.
Yeah, awesome. Looking forward to it. So let's go ahead and talk about the other scenario, which is test user might be an admin of their own workspace and what happens in that case. So I'm going to go over here to a different Lakehouse. So this is Northwind Consumer. Thanks to our new multitasking view, you can see this is a different color tab. So I've created a shortcut here to the same customers and orders table as well. So these are the tables that exist in the pink Northwind Test Lakehouse. But in this workspace here, as you'll see, test user is an admin. They're the admin of this particular workspace, so they can do whatever they want. We've created new workspace, we've created new lake houses, etc. But we created shortcuts to the data that the other admin owns. So thanks to OneLake Security, that security flows across the shortcuts, just as we would expect to secure the data in this lakehouse as well. So again, going to the SQL Analytics endpoint, you'll see here I have two tables. I have the customers table and the orders table. So let's do the exact same thing we did before. We'll go ahead and query the order shortcut table. Again, you get all the data. Notice that just like the other lakehouse, I'm not seeing any of the other tables that I don't have access to. And then let's query the customers table as well. So we'll run a query here. Again, same thing. CLS is applying. We have to remove the contact name and the address. So we'll go ahead and do that. Then we'll run the query again. And just like you would expect, only the USA rows are showing up. So even though we created a shortcut to it from a lakehouse where I'm an admin, the OneLake security is still applying and restricting my access to this.
Wow. So not only is it at the workloads, but if I start going across workspaces and shortcutting to, because shortcuts are a really popular feature, so I don't have to duplicate data, from one location to the next, and I start creating shortcuts from one lake house to another lake house, my data's even secured that way. Truly remarkable, Aaron. Truly remarkable. Anything else you want to share with us today?
Yeah, so there's one last thing I want to show. So one of the questions that we get is, well, how do I manage all of my OneLake security roles? I might have multiple different
Yeah.
workspaces, or be multiple places that I need to go to kind of manage my OneLake security roles. So we launched something new, which is our secure tab in the OneLake catalog. So what you do is you go to your OneLake catalog, make sure you click on the Explore tab, and then there's two different views that we've added to make governance and security administration a lot easier. So the first view here is View Users. So this will show you all of the different users in your workspaces and tell you what roles they have. So you can see here, I've selected a couple different workspaces and I am an admin of all three of them. But distribution test here is a viewer of only one of them. Josh has admin permissions of two of them. So I can really quickly search to identify, all right, of my test users, are any of them admins? Great. None of my test users are admins. I'm good. There's no action that I need to take. So it lets you search for users and then figure out whether they have the permissions you expect so you can take action. You can also filter on different user types, and maybe if you're concerned about what your security groups have access to, what types of user roles, you can filter based on that, and then find the different security users, and then take action based on. The second tab here is one that I'm really excited about. This is View Security Roles. So what this does is it takes a look at all of your OneLake Security roles across all your workspaces and pulls them here into a single view. So you can see I have multiple different lake houses and all of the different roles for those lake houses showing up here so I can go ahead and understand what permissions they have. I can click here on New Role. This will give me a full OneLake Security experience for viewing what data is in this particular role. So you can see I have a bunch of tables here. I can also edit the OneLake Security role in line. So if I don't want the users to have access to all the tables, I can re-edit this role to only grant access to some of the tables, and this will update here right in line. So again, I didn't have to go to that particular lakehouse to edit the OneLake Security role. As an admin, this gives me a place to edit the roles across all of my different workspaces and lakehouses. If I also wanted, I can set row or column level security. Again, exact same experience that you had in the actual lakehouse itself, but from a centralized view.
Okay. So instead of not only are we're not only is Microsoft announcing the public preview of OneLake Security and allowing you to secure your data in one place for all your workloads, we're giving you a centralized place to view the security roles, to see who's an administrator. Maybe I want to look for all my administrators, but we're also giving you a centralized place with the OneLake catalog to check your roles, to edit your roles, to modify your roles. It is truly remarkable. Something we've waiting for a long time, Aaron. Aaron, thank you so much for hanging out with myself today on Fabric Tech Talk Fridays. If you all have any questions, comments about OneLake Security, you know what to do. Post them in the comments below. Aaron and I will be monitoring those comments to hopefully provide the responses as quickly as we can. If this is your first time visiting the Fabric YouTube channel, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button. You like our video, big thumbs up. And as always, from Aaron, Microsoft, and myself, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next Friday.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thank you everyone for watching. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to hit that like button.
If this is your first time visiting the Microsoft Fabric YouTube channel, be sure to smash that subscribe button.
Drop a comment below on what you would like to see on the future episodes of Fabric Tech Talk Fridays.
That's it for today. See you all next Friday for another deep dive in the Microsoft Fabric.